All right. Here we go on a Monday. I do. You're right. I do have my laptop up. Let's change that. Hey everybody, welcome to Vince on a Monday. It is so great to have you with us, the best audience anywhere. We've got a massive show for you today. We're going to talk about the effort to stop all of this left-wing terrorism taking place in the country. The President of the United States has announced troop deployments to Portland, Oregon to stop Antifa's relentless attacks on ICE. We'll get into the details there of what actually took place this weekend. Also, that activity continues in Chicago as well, as the president's trying to get that city under control. The White House has put a bunch of Democrats on notice who have been behind all of the incitement to terrorism. We'll run through that list. And we're joined today by the president's son, Eric Trump, the vice president of the Trump Organization, will join us. He's got a great new book on just everything that his family has been through as his father keeps running and winning as president of the United States, and what that means for the rest of us. We've got a massive, massive show ahead. As always, so great to have you with us. This program is brought to you by Blackout Coffee, the official coffee of all of us here at Silverlock. You can go to blackoutcoffee.com/Vince, use the code Vince, that's VINCE, and get 20% off your first order. And in fact, I started my morning this morning with Blackout Coffee, as I do each morning. And my lovely wife made me 3 strips of bacon and some eggs and some Blackout Coffee. So I am ready to go for today's program. It's going to be a good day, I think. Hey, I'm tired of scrolling through shows on television, aren't you? And then finding nothing but the same mind-numbing content. You've probably been there. You don't want to waste the little time you have with that nonsense. Instead, use that time to learn something new and inspiring. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses. You can learn all about the Bible, the meaning of the United States Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church, all with Hillsdale College's free online courses. And I'm telling you, these things are so great. They're so great. It's not like, I don't know about you, but there was a time, like when you were sitting in if you went to college, if you're sitting inside of a college classroom, or even like in a high school classroom and you're listening to someone give you a lecture, there's one way to do that, and it can kind of be boring. You know, you're sitting there just trying to absorb. The way Hillsdale does it, it's perfect. It's like they've got people who are presenting information to you, these experts, these professors, and then they've got music underneath all of this, and they're presenting the images on screen of everything that they're talking about. It's perfectly encapsulated. And I'm loving this thing. And remember, I told you recently that this is one of the ways Charlie Kirk got educated. Charlie Kirk was doing all of these courses online, and then he would get the certificate, and then he would text the head of Hillsdale, Dr. Larry Arnn, with a copy of each certificate as he completed the courses. So if you want to get educated the way Charlie got educated, this is a great way to do it. And personally, I'm enjoying the Genesis story. You know, Genesis, of course, is a book of fundamental importance for the Jewish and Christian faiths, and has exerted a profound influence on Western civilization. So in addition to being a great religious text, it's also a literary masterpiece. You can sign up for the Genesis story right now and learn some of the work's major narrative themes, including the complex relationship between God and man, and the consequences of a rupture in that relationship, and the path toward reconciliation. You're going to love this course. It's great because at its core, it tells you all sorts of fundamental truths about humanity, which is what you want. So go right now to hillsdale.edu/Vince to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/Vince, and you can enroll for free. hillsdale.edu/Vince. All right, let's go. We've got a lot to get to. You know, the president of the United States this weekend did something that I'm very pleased to see him do. You know, I don't know about you. I am really annoyed by watching Antifa night after night lay siege to these ICE facilities across the country. We've been watching in Chicago at the Broadview ICE facility where lefties just keep attacking. And that was last week, too. And if you're like me, a lot of conservatives were looking at that going, why aren't these people being placed under arrest? Why aren't we seeing all these dudes black bagged, dragged off? Because how many more riots can we see? How many more attacks on ICE agents can we see? It's enough. Can we stop this, please? And so I think the president is very aware that you and I are concerned about all of this. So he announced on Saturday morning the following on Truth Social. He said, at the request of the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, I am directing the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I'm also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, boy, this is encouraging, and I hope upon hope that the president can get some peace going in the streets of both Portland and Chicago and anywhere else this madness is happening, because I've had enough. I don't know about you, but I've had enough. I can't take this anymore. It feels like the country's in too fragile of a state. We need order restored, and however the president can do it, let's do it, baby. So the president makes this announcement, and sure enough, this weekend, you start to get some of the scenes from Portland. Here are some of the feds making arrests on Saturday night, cut 3. Just take a look here. Here's what it looks like in Portland as the feds move in, and they start just tackling people and taking them into custody. They've got the riot shields out. You got rioters who are acting like complete animals. Here in the footage you can see here, if you're watching on rumble.com/Vince, you got federal cops tackling people, bringing them down, putting them into custody, dragging them into the building, and beginning to process them. And the key here is, look, if you're violating the law, if you strike a cop, if you get violent, if you're rioting, then that's the fate that awaits you. And so the FAFO sequence is playing out in Portland, Oregon right now, a place where there's been a lot of FA and not an FFO. So love to see the cops out there doing something on behalf of the rest of us. And I'm certain those cops are grateful that the president has taken the handcuffs off of them to actually do their jobs. So taking people into custody in Portland, love seeing that. People in the chat saying, I voted for this. Yeah, that's what I voted for too. I voted for consequences for lawbreakers. And this is not First Amendment protected activity we're talking about. It's not just people standing on the street yelling nonsense. It's people who strike cops, who block traffic, who shut down commerce, who are rioting. We've seen plenty of Molotov cocktails thrown, just assaults on law enforcement. Okay, fine. That's when you get tackled. That's when you get your face pressed into the pavement, and that's when you get the handcuffs put on you and you get dragged inside and detained and arrested for what you've done and charged. Really key. And then, of course, we get this footage too. Here's a helicopter, the cops deploying helicopters to circle above Antifa, and they're saying things like, oh no, they're just trying to intimidate us. Cut 4, look at this. They're just trying to intimidate us with the helicopters. If that's the goal, good, I'll take that. As you can kind of see in this footage, just a chopper's blinking light in the sky, but hovering over all of these Antifa rioters. And remember, Antifa is a terror organization. So it's kind of amazing that these guys continue to call themselves Antifa and show up in the streets wearing their stupid gas masks and everything else. How long can that be sustained? The president says he's going after the funding sources of these guys. He wants to go after the top bananas inside of Antifa to take them down. And last week he indicated that among the people who are considered at the very top of those organizations, he said, hey, I'm hearing a lot of names. I'm hearing names like George Soros. I'm hearing names like Reid Hoffman. We're coming after you. Good. It can't happen soon enough. I am cheering you on, President Trump. Keep bringing the pain to these guys who created so much for the rest of us. So that's what's happening in Portland. Now, if you ask Democrats in Oregon what they think of all of this, they're just denying all of it. No, none of this is happening. Here's the Oregon governor pretending like everything is totally fine. Cut 2. Here's the governor of Oregon. Take a look at this.
Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection, there is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops.
Yeah, that's all garbage. That's complete garbage. Look at that lady. She looks like Rick Moranis or something. So there she is presenting this lie to the public that everything's fine in Portland. We don't need any assistance whatsoever. There's no threat to national security. Nothing to be concerned about at all. There's no insurrection, she says. That's crazy because I just showed you footage of rioters continue to lay siege to the Portland ICE facility, guys who are being arrested because they're attacking federal law enforcement. And what are they protesting against? What are they rioting against? They're rioting against enforcement of our immigration laws. We're taking violent illegal aliens into custody and then getting them out of our country. So you tell me again how there's no national security concern at play. So Rick Moranis, the governor of Oregon, is lying to us. Apologies to Rick, by the way. I don't know you personally, so it might not be. Rick Moranis may be a very decent human being. I have no idea. But the point is, the governor of Oregon is a crazy person, and she's in charge. And she's not alone. You also have the mayor of Portland, who is, of course, a Democrat, Cut One, saying that everything's fine in Portland, nothing to see here. Full-blown Iraqi information minister. Look at this.
President Trump has directed all necessary troops to Portland, Oregon. The number of necessary troops is 0 in Portland and any other American city. And let me repeat that. This is an American city. We do not need any intervention. This is not a military target. The president will not find lawlessness or violence here. I've been so deeply disappointed to see the footage from a half decade ago, recycled and then recycled again.
Yep.
If President Trump came to Portland today, what he would find is people riding their bikes, playing sports.
That is the craziest thing ever. The footage that I'm showing you this morning, the footage that you're seeing this weekend all over social media from Portland, that's not from 2020. And by the way, 2020 is bad enough. 2020 is justification enough that we shouldn't let these Democrats run these cities into the ground anymore. They need to be rescued. So the Democrats are mad. They were telling us back in 2020 everything was fine in Portland. You remember that? The same idiots were telling us, don't you worry about Portland. And this is places where they were setting up autonomous zones and all sorts of chaos. I've had enough of your lies, actually. No more of that. And so the Democrats, rather than address the crime problem, they exacerbate it. They lie about it. They pretend it doesn't exist, and they say, "Don't send anybody in." I'm sorry. This is what's happening. You set this up. We're going to clean it up. So the president of the United States sending the troops into Portland, and that action couldn't come soon enough. Thank you to the president for that. Meanwhile, in Chicago, we continue to have similar massive problems at especially the Broadview ICE facility, which has been an utter disaster. Luckily, we've got some fun footage of the feds making arrests in Chicago. Here's cut 5. If you're watching rumble.com/Vince, you'll see the Border Patrol guys who are out there just absolutely leveling a dude. Boom, taking him to the ground, putting him into custody. Great footage. You can see the credit here on screen from Ford Fisher. Thank you to Ford Fisher for capturing that footage. Look at this guy. They bring him to the ground, they tackle him, they put him into custody, and I'll take that. I'll take that. Remember ESPN used to have a feature on SportsCenter? I think it was SportsCenter. Called Jacked Up. We need to bring that back for when rioters get tackled, taken to the ground, and have their faces planted into the concrete. Another rioter jacked up in Chicago. That made my whole day, said Mrs. G. Yeah, it made mine too, Mrs. G. I completely agree. I love that. What else do we have? We've got Antifa, which thought that they could just get away with causing all sorts of chaos, no consequences. They had a bunch of pepper balls shot in their direction. Cut 6. Take a look. Pepper balls for Antifa. This is another way to take care of your Antifa problem. This footage comes to us from the Border Hawk account, also sharing a bunch of really important footage this weekend on social media outside of that Broadview facility. And in it, you see Antifa rioters, and you can tell they're Antifa. They're all dressed in black. They have their stupid masks on. They're carrying umbrellas like they're some sort of villain from Batman. They're the Penguin, all of them. And they're running around, all these guys with weak arms and fat chicks, and they're being shot now with pepper balls and tear gas in order to clear out the riot. Luckily, that did have the effect that the authorities desired. They were able to get rid of all of these morons and to clear out the area this weekend. But that's what it's taking now, is this kind of riot control tactic to get rid of these people. But again, It's one thing to do riot control, but they just keep coming back. They're developing some sort of resistance to the tear gas and the pepper balls, given how frequently they've experienced that. We need mass arrests. You know, you want law. If you're gonna be lawless, then you need to be hit with law enforcement. That's the way this has to go. So just so you know, that continues in Chicago. And the reason it got this bad in Chicago is, like in Portland, Oregon, the Democrat leaders there have made that environment crap. Brandon Johnson, the least popular BJ in America, this guy has 6% approval rating. He's so disliked that this weekend he was at a Congressional Black Caucus event. And listen to the reception that Brandon Johnson got at a Congressional Black Caucus event. They're booing Brandon Johnson. Look at this. Boo, boo, boo. Brandon Johnson sitting down, smiling, just ignoring that his approval ratings continue to be an absolute free fall, pretending like everything is fine. That's how you know he's a Democrat. It's like he just ignores reality entirely and then continues to pretend everything is going great. And so that's Brandon Johnson this weekend, and rightfully so. I mean, he's turned his city into even more of a hellhole. And he's denied the crime problems there. He's denied the homicide problems there. He couldn't care less about the well-being of the Windy City and the people who live there. And the president of the United States has made all sorts of generous offers to restore order to the city of Chicago. And if you were the mayor right now, if you were the mayor of Chicago, if you somehow ended up with that very difficult but important task, what would you do if the president of the United States extended his hand in friendship and he said, hey, I've got a solution for you. I can send in the National Guard. We can restore order to the streets. Would you take my assistance here? The answer to that would be a resounding yes. I mean, if you cared about the city of Chicago, and I think, by the way, like the entire chat here cares more about that city than the actual mayor of that city right now. And if you care more about it, you would bring everybody in. You'd bring in all the backup. You'd take the president's help. You would definitely restore order to the city. And then, you know what would happen? Voters would reward you for your excellent decision-making about collaborating with the president. You know, that's the funny thing here. It's like the idea that this is somehow driven purely by politics only, which is like, oh, well, if we help Trump, then this will hurt Democrats. No, you idiots. If you want long-standing power, if you want people to think, hey, maybe I should vote for a Democrat, demonstrate that you deserve that vote in any capacity. Restore order to your city, you morons. I don't want the Democrats to succeed as a political party anymore. They've done too much disaster to our country. But I don't want the people of Chicago dying. I want Brandon Johnson to say yes. Take yes for an answer. You absolute moron. So Brandon Johnson being booed in a place that should be very welcoming to him, or at least was traditionally. And that's not the case now. Congressional Black Caucus event, boos for Brandon Johnson. Well deserved, you jerk. So that's the reception Democrats are getting there. Now, I want to get into, I want to move to one other big immigration issue in a moment with you. Out of New York, have you seen the footage? There's footage going around of an ICE agent who shoved a woman to the ground in a New York City courthouse recently. And the left has gone absolutely ballistic about this, so much so that they got the guy suspended from his job. Well, we've got updates on that story. And I want to walk you through everything that actually happened as this ICE official was merely doing his job. We talk about all the things, oh, this is what I voted for. This is what you voted for. I'll take you through the details of this story. The media refused to, which is why, of course, you and I need to pick up the pieces, as always. More ahead on this edition of Vince, a Monday edition. Good to have you with us. Hey, if there's something all of us can believe in, it's hard work, self-reliance, showing up for the people who count on us. But a while back, I hit a wall. I did. I was getting terrible sleep. And then what happens is you get bad sleep, and then you drag yourself through the next day on fumes. I knew I had to find something to break me out of that vicious cycle. And that's when I found Beam's Dream Powder. Now, Beam is proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values. Hard work, integrity, and delivering results. It's a nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on each new day. Dream is made up of a very powerful blend of all natural ingredients, reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, melatonin. It's great. And by the way, delicious, a perfect way to end your day. Here's the deal. Beam is giving you the ultimate Patriot discount, up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder, and you get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Use the code Vince Show at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Use the code Vince Show for up to 40% off. Thank you to Beam, the great Beam's Dream Powder. It's so good. All right. Let me get into what's happening in this New York City courtroom. So these ICE agents have gone for years now where they were told they weren't allowed to enforce the law. The Obama, it may as well have been the Obama administration. The Obama/Biden administration kept telling ICE agents, no, you can't take people into custody. No, you can't deport illegal aliens. No, sit in your office and do nothing. That the mission of Democrats, the immigration mission of Democrats, was to import more illegal aliens into our country. That was the mission. They were nothing more than a travel agency for people who were illegally entering and crossing our borders or overstaying their visas. That's over now. Thank God. That is over at every level. And let me dwell for a moment on what happened inside of this courtroom in New York. Now, take a look at cut 8 here. I want to start here. It's in this sequence of events where you are seeing a woman shoved to the ground by an ICE officer. Here she is in the video. She's confronting him. She's pleading with him. She touches him. He's finally had enough. As she places hands on him. He puts her to the ground, and he stops her, and he warns her, knock it off. Don't do that again. Now, while she's on the ground, she's absolutely crying, hysterical, screaming up. A bunch of cops now approach the area. They're telling everybody else to get away. And this guy's saying, just get out of the building, woman. Don't touch me again. Leave. Leave the building. And now he grabs her, turns her around, and begins escorting her out of the building. And I think, by the way, he's kind of being generous with her. You lay hands on a cop, that's usually how you get arrested. This guy turns her around and says, get out of the building. Now, the press has turned the video footage I just played for you, and if you're listening to the audio podcast that I just described to you, into some sort of horror story that, oh, this is so abusive. And so the effect of the press going ballistic on that subject was they got that gentleman suspended from his job, at least for a moment. At least for a moment. Now, I don't know what's going on at ICE. A lot of good people working at ICE. Maybe they just made a temporary suspension of the guy while they took a closer look at everything in order to establish whether or not he did something wrong. We have an update on this story, though. This gentleman has been returned to full active duty now because ICE reviewed all of the footage. Jack Posobiec was the first to share this this weekend. Here he is. Let me put this up on screen for you. Saying he's told that this ICE officer has been returned to full active duty after a complete footage review, which shows he did nothing wrong. And it was CNN that was reporting that he was relieved of his current duties. I guess they just put him on some sort of temporary leave while they assessed it. But he's back in action now, thank goodness. And I saw Stephen Miller retweet Jack's news scoop here, which is as good as confirmation as any from the White House that he's back on the job. Now, if you look at the full footage here, you start to realize, like, he did everything right, actually. And here is the context that the media are not telling you. The predicate to this is before she was going ballistic on the cop, she was obstructing justice. They took her illegal alien husband into custody at this courthouse. And she was grabbing onto him, trying to pull him away from the cops. She was a part of a physical altercation with the police already. Take a look at this, cut 10. This is just moments before the viral footage. Here's the behavior that she was demonstrating before she shoved that police officer. Look at her. She's grabbing onto her husband. She's trying to shove the cops away. She's trying to pull him out of custody. And police officers are doing everything they can to separate everybody here, to get her away from the action so they can take him into custody. She was trying to stop this arrest. She was a part of an effort by him to resist arrest. And here he is gripping onto her as well. And so they're taking him into custody. Now, all of this was left out by the media coverage wherein they tried to make her into a sob story. No, she was straight up trying to block justice from taking place. And in the video footage that's playing on rumble.com/Vince right now, you can see the cops. They finally get them separated, and they take this guy into custody. So there is, and you know, there's no question. Their instructions were being yelled in English and Spanish. There's no confusion about what was happening here. So in case you're wondering, yeah, this is yet another case of the left distorting reality to try and create a sob story where there was none. Everything was handled appropriately. All those ICE officers are being supported by the administration, and they continue their work today. God bless the administration for continuing to do that work. Now, let me take you to Des Moines, Iowa, where, did you see over the weekend that the superintendent of the Des Moines, Iowa school system was arrested? Did you see this? So in Des Moines, Iowa, the superintendent of schools is an illegal alien. Check this out. Bill Malugin with the report going into the weekend. A senior official tells Fox News that ICE arrested the superintendent of the Des Moines, Iowa public schools. His name's Dr. Ian Andre Roberts, who ICE says is an illegal alien from Guyana and an active ICE fugitive with a deportation order since May of 2024. That's the key here. He's got a deportation order. He's already had his due process. He's already been adjudicated as deportable. Get out of our country. So he's been appropriately taken into custody. Fox is told that he fled from ICE agents in his car once they identified themselves as immigration agents. He sped away. Then he abandoned the car. He was found in a brushy area that was 200 yards away with the help of an Iowa State Police canine. Per ICE, according to the ICE officials, agents found a loaded gun and a fixed blade hunting knife and $3,000 in cash in his vehicle. That loaded gun detail, chat, is it or is it not illegal for an illegal alien to possess a gun in the United States? It's illegal. That's a felony, brother. That's a felony. So you have an illegal alien in possession of a loaded handgun, a Glock 19, inside of his vehicle. He also had a couple $1,000s in cash and a fixed blade hunting knife, they said, in the car. Per the ICE officials, Roberts first entered the United States in 1999 on an F1 student visa at St. John's University, and then he was ordered removed from the United States in 2024. Proceedings were held in absentia. And then in April of 2025, this year, an immigration judge in Dallas denied a motion to reopen his immigration case. Fox is told that Roberts also has a weapons arrest in 2020, though the disposition of that charging case is currently unclear. Here's a mugshot of him. Rumble.com/Vince for the video. You can see the mugshot of the guy. You got his official superintendent portrait. He looks all clean and dapper. There he is in his Orville Redenbacher bow tie. And then you got him in his mugshot. It looks a lot more frazzled than his mugshot. And they've also got a picture of the gun, the loaded Glock 19, inside of the vehicle, sitting on the floor mat of the vehicle itself. So they take him into custody. So here's the thing: it's not just this dude who is there illegally. You know, he's the superintendent of schools in Des Moines, Iowa. Now, how in the world did that happen? How did this dude become the superintendent of schools in Des Moines, Iowa? And one of the answers to this question appears to be that the school board is dominated by a bunch of lefties. And among the lefties who dominate the school board, you've got Michelle Obama's former chief of staff, a woman by the name of Jackie Norris. She's the chairwoman of the Des Moines School Board. And the school board now is pretending like they knew nothing about this. This guy defrauded them. They just had no way of knowing that he was an illegal alien. I'm sorry, what? You didn't run his paperwork? Chat, any of you employers? Does anybody run an I-9 check? Like a status check on whether or not this guy's in the country illegally? Or he's even eligible to work in the United States of America? What kind of process do they even have in Des Moines, Iowa? And how is it that Michelle Obama's chief of staff is overseeing all of this, and this guy's taking a $300,000 paycheck? He's an illegal alien in the country? Right now, it's one thing for this guy to be taken into custody. He's got legal problems of his own. What I want to see next is, what do the feds do about this school board? What are we going to do about a school board that hires an illegal alien who illegally possesses a weapon in the United States of America, who is obviously defrauding everybody? What do we do about all this? I don't think this is the end of this saga, and I doubt it's the end of this saga as far as the Trump administration is concerned. More on that coming up. Also, Eric Trump will be with us here in just a moment. We've got a lot to discuss with the president's son and his great new book, Important. Stand by for that. Hey, great sponsors of this program include Blackout Coffee, proudly the official coffee of all of us here at Silverlock. There's a reason for that. This is bold, unapologetic, America First coffee. It is roasted fresh right here in the United States, not grocery store junk. Blackout Coffee delivers rich, high-quality roasts that actually taste like freedom. And now you can set it and you can forget it with auto refill and recurring delivery. So no more running out, no more watered-down backups, just your favorite roast delivered fresh on your schedule. Pick your favorite roast, how often you want it delivered. Not only do you get a discount, you also get double the rewards, free shipping to your doorstep, and importantly, a delicious cup of coffee. I have it every single day. You're going to love it. Here's what you do. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Use the code Vince. That's VINCE. Get 20% off your first order, whether you're into bold, dark roasts, flavored coffee, or even instant. Blackout's got your back. Real coffee, no compromise. Blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Get yours now. I love Blackout Coffee. Thank you to them. Thank you also to Fatty 15 for being a great sponsor to this program. If you ever think about aging, we all do as we get older, things start creaking and not feeling as good. Well, there is a way out of this, I think, because it's working for me. I'm excited to share with you C15 from Fatty 15. It's the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Van Watson discovered the benefits of C15 while working with the United States Navy. And based on studies, we do know that when our cells don't have enough C15, they can age faster. Fatty 15 can help you repair and protect your age-related damage to cells and help activate pathways in the body that repair mechanisms that support your overall wellness. Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning, vegan, 100% pure C15 supplement. Refills are shipped right to your door. They're shipped to mine. I take it every morning. I love it, and it works great. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit. Just go to fatty15.com/Vince. Use the code Vince at checkout. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All right. Joining us right now is the son of the President of the United States. His name is Eric Trump. He's the Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization, and he's got a great new book out, Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. Sir, good to have you with us on the program today.
Good to be with you, Vince.
The title of your book, the subject of your book, I feel like we're all kind of obsessed with this. It is amazing that your family has continued to stay in this fight. Tell me about kind of what you capture in this book, Under Siege.
So Vince, I named it about 3 years ago, right? And they were killing us. They were absolutely coming after us in every way, shape. You obviously know the impeachments, and you know the raids on Mar-a-Lago. You know what they did with the FBI and the DOJ. They spied on the campaigns. They took away our free speech. They threw my father off of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I became the most subpoenaed person in American history, right? And I could go on and on and on. Then you had the 91 indictments. You had the Alvin Bragg. You had the Jack Smith. You had Letitia James. You know, they tried to pull my father off the ballot in Maine. They tried to pull him off the ballot, you know, in Colorado, right? They laughed at him. They tried to silence his voice. We had to create Truth Social literally because we didn't have any other way to communicate, you know. And I named the book after this, right? They debanked us every single day. The biggest banks in the country were shutting down all our bank accounts. They were trying to take our name off the top of buildings. And so I came up with the name Under Siege because that's what I was. Anything that wasn't in Washington, D.C., I was handling. And then all of a sudden, they tried to kill my father, right? And I said it on Hannity a couple weeks before it happened. I go, you know, I said this, Vince, and I took a lot of, you know, heat for it. But I said it would only make sense that they try and do the next thing, which is inflict, you know, physical harm. And sure enough, they tried to kill him in Butler, and they tried to kill him at the golf course. And then you saw what they did to all of our friend Charlie, you know, 2 weeks ago. And that's what they've done to this movement. They put it under siege. They put our family under siege. They put my father under siege. You know, they put every Republican, every conservative under siege, and it's, you know, kind of the behind-the-scenes story of all of that. How they tried to destroy us, you know, using the legal system, using weaponized politics, using, you know, dirty law enforcement, and how we ultimately prevailed and created the greatest political movement in the history of the world.
Can I ask how is your father capable of enduring all of this? So one of the things I've noticed about your dad is that he has the most unusual ability to survive the most vicious attacks I've ever seen out of any human being, actually. Because it seems like whatever they throw at him, the effect is not to diminish him, but only to make him stronger. And certainly it rallied more people to his side. How did that happen?
Well, I mean, that's like the great irony of this whole thing. It's the unintended consequence of their actions, right? I mean, I sat there every single day with him in those courtrooms, as they read off indictment after indictment, all BS, and we've had them all overturned now. But the guy was an absolute animal, and we'd go from there and we'd go to a fundraiser, and he'd use the microphone on, when he could. A lot of times he couldn't, so I'd be out on the courthouse steps speaking because he had every gag order put on him that you could possibly imagine. But listen, first of all, my father, I think that, the harder people hit him, the harder he hits back. That's always been a quality. You see that every single day as he kind of goes on the counteroffensive. He's always been a great counterpuncher. Second of all, we probably have some kind of masochistic, trait to us as a family, right? And, again, the more pain you inflict, probably, the more we want to ultimately win and succeed.
Yeah.
I think we're all stubborn as hell. I think he's stubborn as hell. And then kind of last but not least, I think we've all learn to compartmentalize it as a game. It's not a nice game. It's not a fun game. We know why they play this game. You do as well. Dan did as well. We all know the game that's being played. No one has blinders to the game that's being played right now, right? And
Yeah.
so when you can take the emotion out of it, when I got my 112th subpoena, I no longer felt it anymore. I just understood it was the game that the Democratic Party played, for their own purposes. And so when you can take emotion out of something, you can kind of get through it a little bit easier.
Was there ever a moment where it felt insurmountable? Was there ever a moment, especially in the intervening years between the two presidencies, where you personally looked at it and go, I don't know if he could actually get elected again. Everything the left has thrown at him, this seems pretty big.
I remember coming out of the courthouse with my father. I talked about it in the book, and he looks at me. He goes, "Honey, I don't know how, but we're going to win." And I looked back at him and I said, "We either win or we're all going to be in jail." That's the reality. We did not a damn thing wrong, right? I mean, you've seen every single one of these cases that they threw against him and me and all of us, right, disappear. They're all gone. We just beat Letitia James. She threw a $560 million verdict using crooked judge. And the appellate courts overturned it, saying that it was absolutely. But had we not won, they would have figured out a way to throw us in jail. There's just no question about it. And so, yeah, it was dark. I was sitting there when they read off the 34 felony counts in the New York case, and my father turned around. I was the first person he saw. He shook my hand. We walked out. We went right to a fundraiser. He just never stopped. He never gave in. He never apologized. He never ever stopped. And it's a law of unintended consequences. Every single day that Americans saw him in that courthouse, they go, this thing's a sham, and they ended up moving out to the polls in record numbers, right? We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. Every state in the country tacked further to the right. We won 11 counties in California that had never been won by a Republican before. We won Miami-Dade by 11%. I mean, Miami-Dade hasn't gone, Republican in 37 years, and we won by 11%. And so, whatever they did clearly did not work, as you know better than anybody.
So, Eric, I talked to your brother earlier this year about where he was when he found out that your father was shot in Butler last year. He described that he was on the water with his daughter, and they came racing back in order to sort of get their bearings and figure out what was going on with your dad. Where were you when you found out about all of this?
I had my two kids in my lap. I was in New York just for a weekend. My kids were there with me, and I was working on email. I was watching the rally. You'll remember, Vince, that was a lot of people were speculating that my father was going to announce the vice presidential pick, and that's why he was being live streamed to everybody. When the shots kind of rang out. And I've done a lot of competitive shooting in my life. It's something that I know very well. I mean, a guy shooting at 130 yards with a modern rifle with modern optics. It's like Tiger Woods missing a 6-inch putt. It just doesn't. It doesn't happen, and that was a scary moment. I'm saying there, remember he was wearing a dark suit. We didn't know if he got shot in the torso. You'd never be able to see the blood, obviously, because the suit was so dark. And that was a horrible moment. It was a horrible feeling. It was a horrible feeling for the entire country. And by the grace of God, he wasn't killed, as close as it came. And and then we saw obviously what just happened to Charlie. In the same kind of very graphic fashion. And these people are violent. They're insane. They spent the last 10 years calling us fascists, yet they're the ones dressing up in all black, crawling onto roofs with sniper rifles and shooting people as they're out there exercising their First Amendment right. The least fascist thing you can imagine. It's hard to believe it's where we got to, but by the grace of God, he's alive.
I can imagine you breathing some sigh of relief when you saw him stand up and chant "Fight, fight, fight" on that stage. Did you learn anything about your father that day? Because I saw that and I thought to myself, I already liked your dad. Obviously, I've supported him through each election, but it was at that moment that I was like, "That's a man." That response right there, that was the most masculine energy I've seen any presidential candidate ever put forward, and it was in a moment where nobody's ready for that, and he just answered the call. What did you think of that?
Vince, my entire life, in the business world, I've seen people fake it, right? And act a part, that's not really ingrained in their DNA. And, when you have blood running down your face, when you just got shot, when there's an active threat out there, you don't know if the guy's dead, you can't tell, what's going on. If there's another shooter out there and he doesn't give a damn and he stands up, by the way, against the wishes of the Secret Service, you can probably only imagine they didn't exactly want him standing up, only to put his fist in the air. That's not scripted. If you were a coward, you would have cowered at that moment. If you weren't brave, you would have seen it in that moment. He meant that. That was pure instinct. And, he's the greatest fighter ever. Dana White had the greatest line. He goes, listen, I'm in the, obviously Dana White of the great UFC. He goes, I'm in, the tough guy business. And I've never seen anybody like this guy, right? I mean, he's the toughest of all the tough guys. And it's the only reason we won. Listen, he had to go against 16 candidates in 2016, 16 Republicans that actually knew a damn about politics. We're really good at building hotels and buildings and all sorts of things. And then go against Hillary Clinton, who's maybe the greatest, in terms of family, political dynasty of the century. You better be tough as hell. And he's the greatest. I love the man to death. And, no one has those genetics.
Given the venom that's been spewed at him and the attempts on his life, I imagine anybody with the last name Trump right now, to include yourself, must have some incoming all the time. What's the security situation like for you? I'm not asking you to describe your security. I'm just saying, what kind of incoming have you received as just being the son of the president?
I think from the day I stepped on the stage, and you probably know I stepped on the stage before anybody. I mean, I've been there since the earliest days of 2016, and I never left that stage, and I never hid. And I can't tell you how many thousands of rallies that I've done, how many, rallies standing on top of a John Deere tractor with a bullhorn I've done all across the nation. I mean, literally thousands. I mean, we went out there and we fought like hell. And obviously we have Secret Service these days, but listen, the world's a scary place. I can't tell you how many envelopes full of powder I got that exploded in our faces as we opened it up. Obviously people want to do these anthrax scares and all sorts of things. I mean, too many to count. I mean,
has that happened to you? Has that personally, or did people opening your mail experience that?
No, it's happened to myself. It's happened to my wife. And by the way, this isn't like once or twice. This is like more times than you care to count. Now, some jerk chops up Tylenol or baby powder or something along those lines, but it's. Yeah. I can't tell you how many of these that we've had. I mean, the tolerant left isn't all that tolerant, as I've quickly come to find out, as they've tried to kill my father and would clearly like the same thing to happen to all of us. And I spent a lot of time talking about it in the book. I mean, Vince, it's exactly what they want. They wanted the siege, right? They wanted us scared. They wanted us hiding in a basement. They wanted us doing what Joe Biden did in 2020 and never leaving the basement. They did not want us on that stage. They did not want us at those rallies. They did not want us on those campuses. They did not want us in those churches, right? I mean, they want us hiding. They want us nowhere to be seen by the general public. And that's why they were censoring us. And that's why they were taking us off of Facebook and Twitter. They want our voice gone. That's the intent of all of this. And unfortunately, as dangerous as it is, as dangerous as we've seen it be, based on everything that we've seen over the last year and a half, we can't cower to this stuff. We just can't. We're going to lose our country if we do. And that's a big premise of this entire book.
Yeah. So this past weekend, we saw James Comey gets prosecuted. And the prosecution, as we understand the indictment, is based on lies that he told to Congress 5 years ago in September of 2020. And the way the left is treating this story right now is if Donald Trump is weaponizing the United States Department of Justice, and that this is some sort of novel weaponization of the department. And now you wait until Democrats are in control again. We'll use the Justice Department in a weaponized way. What do you make of that storyline that the left is pushing right now in the wake of the prosecution of Comey and, of course, the investigations into people like Letitia James and Adam Schiff?
Oh, well, the great irony. I mean, you and I can sit here for the next hour and go through how many people they got on quote unquote perjury in the last let's just go. I mean, we could go through them. The great irony. I mean, the people who are weaponizing law enforcement. I mean, are these the same people that spied on my father's campaign? Are these the same people who made up dirty dossiers about my father? And I won't even say it because we're on a podcast, but you know the stories that were in the dossiers. I mean, are these the same people who raided his home, literally called me up and told me, hey, Eric, do me a favor, turn off all security cameras. I'm like, I'm not turning off the security cameras in Mar-a-Lago, because they didn't want to see Mar-a-Lago get ransacked by FBI agents. Are these the same people?
I'm sorry, who told you to do that?
The FBI. When they got to the property, when they got to Mar-a-Lago, I got a call saying the FBI immediately wants all security cameras turned off. And I said, I spent a lot of time talking about this in the book. I'm not turning off our security cameras. Like, no way am I turning off our security cameras. You can only imagine Mar-a-Lago has a lot of security cameras. They also wouldn't let our lawyers be anywhere near the property when this happened. I mean, it's insane to think there's never been a group that's weaponized a system more than the other guys. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you hear where a guy clearly lies. I mean, he lies in his testimony, and all of a sudden this is the weaponization of government when for the last 10 years. I've been getting calls from the FBI saying, I hear you have secret servers, communicating directly with the Kremlin in the basement of Trump Tower. And I'm saying, they're saying, excuse me, guys, we don't have servers in the basement of Trump Tower. Basements flood. You don't put servers in basements. Second of all, we're like a largely cloud-based computing company. So you don't really have servers to begin with. But I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. They are the most dishonest. They are the I mean, look at all these stories about them coming out and literally spying on people who had search words in Google for the Bible, MAGA. Look what the IRS was doing, to conservative organizations, to churches. Their entire platform has been weaponizing government, at the behest of the American people. I don't want to hear it when you clearly have a guy who perjured himself during congressional testimony.
Were you pleased to see him indicted on Friday?
Listen, I don't want to see anybody indicted. At the same time, there's a lot of really bad people who have done really, really, really bad things in this country, Comey being one of them. He knew the Russia thing was a total sham. I mean, I told him it was a sham. Come over to Trump Tower. If you want to see if we have secret servers, come over to Trump Tower. I'll walk you down to the basement right now. Come over. I give you 5 minutes to be here. Let's go. And they didn't give a I mean, they wanted to see that narrative continue, Vince.
Yeah.
Right? For a 3-year period of time. These people pitted the two biggest nuclear superpowers against each other, almost making communication impossible. Also that a greedy woman could get 5 more votes? And it didn't work? All while talking about it in email saying, this could be our October surprise. And they define October surprise as something that they pop on you so late that it does the damage, but they don't have enough time to disprove it. I mean, that's the dirtiness of politics. Yes. They spied on the campaign, right? They raided my father's home. They indicted him twice. They pulled him off of balance. They silenced his voice. They sent me 112 subpoenas when I've never gotten so much as a parking ticket. And the reason they did that is my father had executive branch protection, so you couldn't subpoena him. But guess who you could subpoena? The guy that ran the Trump Organization, which was his entire legacy, which was our wealth, our voice, our assets, our company, right? We probably spent $400 million on legal fees, meaning personal legal fees, defending ourselves from all of this. And then it comes with great irony when I see these talking heads saying, he's weaponizing government when you clearly have somebody on camera who blatantly lied. And one other thing, not to be long-winded, what the hell was Comey doing as FBI director? Leaking files to the New York Times. Why does everybody forget that? Does anybody think that's appropriate conduct? You know what I want my FBI director to do? Make sure terrorists don't crash planes into buildings. Make sure that our streets are safe. Not leak files, adversarial to another political party to the New York Times.
Yeah.
I think we should all be questioning his motives as well if that was his job responsibility.
Are you happy that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are now running that agency?
So I think you know how much I love Cash, and you probably know how much I love Bongino. Bongino has been a friend of mine for a very, very long time, and Cash has as well. And here's what I can tell you: these guys are unbelievable Americans. They're straight as hell. They love this nation. They love the flag. They will not allow our nation to be hurt. They will not allow our flag to be desecrated. They're God-fearing people, and that's a beautiful thing. I've never had more faith in an agency. And by the way, if there's one thing that we learned about law enforcement coming out of Charlie Kirk's, I mean, what was it, 32 hours and 6 minutes, that they had the guy in custody? They did a hell of a job versus the usual, top floors of the FBI who, under the last administration, weren't locking up anybody. Crime was going the exact opposite. They weren't getting the top 100 fugitives in this country. They found very few of them. And you know what they were doing? They were spying on my father's campaign. They were weaponizing the DOJ to go after Donald J. Trump, and they were raiding his home. I don't see Cash doing that, and I certainly don't see Dan doing that. And I think they're taking their jobs incredibly seriously because they're great Americans.
Yeah, and this is why I'm convinced. I'm knowing Dan as I do. This is why I'm convinced as to why he's been staying there. There was reported some drama or something between him and the Justice Department earlier this year. Whatever. I mean, however any of that's true or not. But the reality is, like your father in a way, he's made some personal sacrifices in his own life in order to do this job. And by doing that, the only reason he's there is because he believes in the mission. That's it. It's as simple as that. And so when I see the indictment of Comey this past week, it's a clear sign that that's the kind of thing he's sticking around for. He meant it when he said he's going in for accountability, and sure enough, they're producing it.
Yeah, I find it ironic that literally they get every Republican on perjury over the last 10 years or perjury. Yeah. Right. I'll put that in quotes. But then one of their guys actually lies. But you're right. I mean, listen, Dan Bongino did very well. His show was incredibly successful. He had an unbelievable career. He had every opportunity. Believe me, he did not go into the FBI for financial gain. That much I can tell you as a guy who knows Dan very well. And my father didn't either. Everybody talks about Trump's are quote unquote profiting off of government. That's one of the big sound bites of the left. Tell me that after I've spent $400 million on legal fees. Yeah. Tell me that after we self-funded an entire campaign, because we had no donors because no one believed in us. Tell that to my father who donates his salary, every quarter to a charity of his choice, right? That's pertinent to the U.S. and then gets paid, has to pay taxes on the money he otherwise donated because it's effectively phantom income, right? I mean, give me a break. Dan didn't need this job. Donald Trump needed this job like a hole in the head. Believe me, his life would have been a hell of a lot better flying around on Trump Force One, playing golf every day and seeing his grandkids than taking the thousands of arrows he has, including being in courthouses in every state in the country, every blue state in the country, I should say. But they love this nation, and they want to see the best for it, and they want to fix the incompetence.
Now, you brought up an issue I wanted to ask you about. I've been meaning to. I was like, next time I talk to Eric Trump, this is what I want to ask him about, is this idea that somehow your dad is doing this job to enrich himself, that he's self-dealing. The whole point is that he's taking the job to enrich himself. Now, you and I both know that's absurd. Everyone who's watching us knows this is absurd. But it is kind of this deranged sort of never-ending talking point from the left. The same people who supported Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and all of the profit-taking they were doing from their time in government. But I look at that and I go, wait a second. Your dad is donating 100% of his salary. It's literally paying a 100% tax rate on all the earnings he's getting from his job as president of the United States. You guys swore off foreign business deals, as I recall, as a result of his time in office. If foreigners were staying in the Trump Hotel in D.C., you weren't even taking profits off of that, and then you would donate the proceeds from the money that was being put into the hotel, into the government. So, with all of that said, I'm wondering where's the self-dealing going on, Eric Trump?
I'm trying to figure that out as well. All while I see, again, I'll put it in quotes, my quote unquote counterpart, or we're nothing alike, selling finger art to the Chinese for $500,000 a painting or whatever the hell was reported. Maybe I should get into the art business. I just became an unbelievable artist. I wonder why, right? I've never seen an organization that had so many entities as the Biden had, the Bidens had, and yet they don't have a website. I can't figure out what product they're selling. Just give me give me the nature of their business, right? I'm saying this kind of rhetorically, because we all know exactly what was happening there. The whole world knows what was happening there. I mean, they were selling influence. It's very simple. And guess what? When you can't sell influence the traditional way, you start selling art at, hyped up prices to people who otherwise need influence because, the value of art is clearly subjective.
Yeah.
It's a shame. The business that we've been in for 4 generations. We've had one of the great hotel companies on earth, one of the great golf companies on earth. We do residential real estate towers better than anybody, on earth. I've been doing it since I was 11 years old. So it's kind of funny. It's like we got out of business when my father got into office, whereas Hunter got into business when his father got into office. And
did you ever think of buying one of Hunter's paintings just to make all of your problems go away?
Well, I was thinking about it, and that probably would have worked very well. Maybe I would have had to pay $750,000 as opposed to $500,000, but I'm sure at the right price, I'm sure I could have had all of DJT's problems go away. Absolutely. and by the way, joking aside, it would have been the easiest deal I've ever made. I spent a lot of time in Under Siege talking about this, but had I ever gone to them and said, "Listen, guys, here's the deal. We're gonna make a little silent deal. My father's not going to run again. He's going to pull himself out of the race. You in return drop all these cases, all these indictments, all these felonies. They were trying to get a $560 million judgment against us, which we just got reversed totally. They would have dropped that faster than you can snap your fingers. That's what they wanted.
So actually, on that front, I've heard, and maybe you could tell me what you know about this. I've heard that maybe in his first run for president, that there were billionaires who were trying to buy him out of running, that people were trying to raise money to get him to drop out of the race. They didn't want him to do this. Have you seen that? People trying to offer him something to not be in politics?
Can I give you the biggest one? This will probably make news. How about NBC? Right? I mean, NBC came in 2 weeks before he announced, all right, with a contract, and I was there in the room because I was on The Apprentice, as you remember very well, for 7 seasons. And they had a contract about this big. The contract was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. It would have been billions through the term, but they wanted him to run another couple seasons of The Apprentice, and the numbers were absolutely staggering, right? And I remember being in the room, and he goes, "Guys, I'm thinking about something else. I can't agree to this." I mean, he knew the value of that contract, and that would have kept him out of the race. That would have kept him from announcing, right? Because he would have been obviously conflicted out. He would have had to have done the reality TV thing, and he looked at them and he looked at Mark Burnett and said, "You know what, guys, I have something else on my mind." He didn't tell them that day what it was, but obviously everybody kind of inferred and knew, and I certainly knew. And then, not too long after, obviously, he went down that golden escalator. So there is no question that was an attempt to keep him out of politics. Now, it also would have worked great for NBC because NBC was making an absolute fortune off the show. What was interesting, the second he went down that escalator, NBC turned on us as a family like we were absolute dogs, right? Now, NBC was dying. CBS was destroying them because they had Survivor and all sorts of things, right? So The Apprentice was the one thing that NBC had. As soon as my father said, "You know what, guys, I'm going to hang this up. I'm not going to agree to the extension. I want to go do something else," NBC turned on him like this. The executives, we knew every single one of them. The producers, we knew every single one of them. In a minute, they treated him like a dog when he was their saving grace 2 weeks earlier. And so, yes, there's been plenty of people who have tried to buy him out of politics. And unfortunately, it's clearly never worked.
And you're convinced that NBC offer was an attempt to keep him away from the White House?
I think the NBC offer was an attempt to keep him away. I mean, listen, he still had the #1 reality TV show. I think there was obviously massive commercial benefits for it, but I think the side intent of that was clearly to keep him away. And listen, all the indictments and all the nonsense and all the ways that they put him under siege were a way to make his life so damn uncomfortable and our family's life so damn uncomfortable and costly and time consuming and not fun that they thought he was just going to kind of fold up the towel and throw it in. And honestly, they underestimated who Donald Trump is and his conviction. And frankly, all of us as a family who went out there and fought our asses off every single day.
And you still are. The book is Under Siege. The author is Eric Trump. He's the son of the president, as you know. And I'm so grateful for your time today, Eric. Good to talk to you, sir.
Thanks so much, Vince.
There he is, Eric Trump. As always, so nice to talk to these guys, get a firsthand experience of what it's like to be in that orbit, to have to deal with all of that garbage, and thank God they're doing it on behalf of the rest of us. All right, so a great conversation with Eric. Our thanks to him. I've got the big national radio show coming up today. That's 12 to 3 Eastern time. You can get the local listings, thevinceshow.com, or watch us live on Rumble, rumble.com/Vince. I'm back with you tomorrow with another big episode of Vince. Coming up next here on Rumble, Steven Crowder does his thing. Stay tuned for that.